these themes probably existed independent of AI assistance. Like these are also attributes of what high performance teams have available to them.
Welcome to Chilltown, where tech meets the world, where CTOs share the tales and the comments. Startups do big names, innovations unfold. How many CTOs will share their stories untold?
All right, Brad, welcome back to another episode of How Many CTOs Does It Take? And I'm very excited to actually interview you today because earlier this week you sent me a link to an article that you said you're really fired up about.
Yeah.
And contemporaneously, I received something similar on the same topic
Nice.
from another person. And I don't know what it is. I mean, I know the headline, which has something to do with DORA Metrics and AI, but I
Yeah.
actually don't even think we've introduced the show. This is the How Many CTOs Does It Take podcast. My name is Scott Porad. This is my trusty co-host.
I'm Brad Hefta-Gaub, and in this episode, we're going to talk about the newest DORA report on the state of AI software development for 2025.
Before we start, we got to take a quick look at Hacker News.
Oh yeah,
How many of the top 10 articles are about AI? One. Only one.
wow.
The AI hype is over. All right. DORA metrics and AI. Let's hear about it. Tell me about this article that you found, Brad, or this thing that's going on. It's more than one article because I got two of them. Something's happening out there.
Well, so first let's start out. We all know what the DORA program is. It's essentially, DORA is all about a research program. It's kind of supported by Google, and it's all about metrics for kind of measuring the overall productivity of your engineering team, right? And so we talk about the DORA metrics, or essentially like typically it's the how quickly you do releases, how frequently you're doing releases, how much downtime you have from releases, how quickly you repair any downtime. Those are kind of the classic DORA metrics that are out there. And yeah, so the DORA working group basically went out and did a very, very extensive research paper. So it's essentially like a think tank type analysis paper that you might get from a a consulting group or any kind of a working group, and they looked at kind of where are we at in adoption of AI, where are we at in how that adoption is it positively or negatively impacting team performance? What types of teams are being more or less successful with adopting AI? And it's an extensive report. So it's 142-page long report.
And I feed that into ChatGPT or Gemini and just get a summary.
Probably. But they did a good job, like all good reports. They lead with the executive summary, and they kind of enumerate their key findings. And I think that's certainly one place that we could start, is kind of like, what are the key findings that they came with?
Let's do it. Let's start wherever you want. What are the key findings that they came with?
All right. So right out of the gate, one of the key findings is that AI adoption has become nearly universal. So basically, in the people they surveyed, 90% of respondents are saying they use AI as a consistent part of their workflow, and more than 80% believe that it has increased their productivity.
I am skeptical already.
Well, there's a really interesting chart that I found on like page 32 of the report, and then I realized it was actually called out on page on that key findings part of the report, which is it's this awesome, like, the landscape of AI's impact. And I'm going to just read these sort of the vectors that they kind of got some results on, and you'll see something interesting in it. So vectors that AI impact: individual effectiveness, okay, top impact, all the way far to the right. Yay, everybody feels more productive. Next most impactful, next most highest impact: software delivery instability. And it is increased with AI adoption. And the chart says, note, an increase here is not a desirable outcome.
Right.
Organizational performance, positive high impact, valuable work, positive high impact, code quality, positive high impact, product performance, positive high impact. These are all kind of getting less and less impactful. Team performance, software delivery throughput, and then burnout actually above zero, so actually increasing burnout, and then friction, decreasing friction. So basically, of these various metrics on the impact, the vast majority of them are generally considered positive if AI is improving them, and three of them would be considered negative if they were increasing. And like the second top increase is software delivery instability is being reported as a real actual outcome of AI.
So it's having impact.
It's having an impact, not necessarily the one that we would want. So so that's kind of a really interesting. So I feel like that's certainly worth like the aha. 90% of people are using it. 80% of people saying they're more productive with it, and um, software instability, delivery instability is being reported at a uh, estimated effect standardized at 0.1 increase. I don't know what the unit of measure of that is. We'll have to like go dig into that, but clearly not a good thing.
Yeah, I'm just look. I'm going to trust the report that that's what it says, but it doesn't jive with my experience of the engineers I talk to on a regular basis.
Well,
I see more. I just hear more skepticism. That's all.
actually, they've got some great charts on that, and they actually did something really interesting. And again, this is like a 140-page report, and so there's probably something in there for anyone to find, right? Like what's the saying? Lies, damn lies, and statistics, right? So
Mhm.
we can make these statistics say whatever we want them to say, and at 142 pages of statistics, I'm sure any team could find something in there to support their particular political agenda. One thing I do think is interesting is they did a really interesting deep dive on types of organizations. And they categorized these types of organizations into 7 different clusters of organizations. And those different clusters of organizations were experiencing very different results. And so they have a whole chapter called "Understanding Your Software Delivery Performance," a look at 7 team profiles.
Mhm.
And they basically clustered these groups into like I said, 7 groups. So, cluster one, foundational changes. These teams are stuck in survival mode, facing significant challenges with fundamental gaps in their processes, environments, and outcomes. And about 10% of their survey respondents were in that category.
Mhm.
Cluster two, the legacy bottleneck. Teams in this cluster are a constant state of reaction where unstable systems dictate their work and undermine their morale. And this was about 11% of their respondents. Constrained by process, these teams are running on the treadmill despite working on stable systems. Their efforts are consumed in inefficient processes, leading to high burnout and low impact. 17% of respondents were in that category. Um, High impact, low cadence. So these teams are producing high impact work reflected in strong product performance and high individual effectiveness. However, these are coupled with low cadence deliveries, more model characterized by low software delivery throughput and high instability. So in other words, and 7% are in this. So these are sort of like they're making high impact, but they're kind of trudging along. And from a DORA perspective, right? The DORA metrics are all about like fast iteration and fast delivery. So this team would kind of score on a sort of like they might feel like they're making impact, but they're kind of slow to move. Uh,
Yeah, well, they're aiming well and hitting their target. They just don't shoot very often.
Yeah, exactly. And let's see. There's I'll rattle off the next 3 here. Stable and methodical teams working on steady artisans, delivering high quality code at a deliberate and sustainable pace. 15% of the respondents are there. Pragmatic performers, team consistently delivering work with impressive speed and stability, even if their environment hasn't reached a state of peak engagement. 20% of teams there. And then the all hail greatest cluster here, the harmonious high achievers. This is what excellence looks like, and something like 20% of the DORA responders are in that category. And each of those different segments clearly are going, and this is one of the things of this DORA report, that it's not a tools question. AI, integrating AI into your development cycle is not a tools question. It's a systems level question. And you've got to set your systems up correctly. And systems, of course, we mean like all the systems, like, your cultural systems, your process systems, your technology systems, right? So that's kind of one of the other key things that came out of this
Mm,
report.
that is fascinating. You remember John Helm, who was on this podcast.
Yeah.
He has a saying that I picked up from him 20 years ago, which to me is very relevant to that little piece right there, which is he always would say, software is just a function of the people and processes who created it. And so what I hear, I would adapt it. I'll call it John Helm's AI corollary. AI effectiveness is only a function of the people and processes in which it is embedded.
hmm
Yeah.
hmm
All right.
And
Cool.
one of the this was its own key finding here. So successful adoption of AI requires more than just tools. Our new DORA AI capabilities model identifies 7 foundational practices, including clear AI policy, a healthy data ecosystem, and a user-centric focus that are proven to amplify the positive impact of AI on organizational performance. And so they have a whole chapter on sort of like the things they've found that the teams reporting high performance all had in common.
Okay. That's handy.
Yeah,
Now, are those things
those
they found, are they tangible or are they fuzzy? Like,
a good question.
are
I
they
mean,
things like are they things like the team has a great culture, which is very fuzzy, or are they very tangible, like, oh, the team always, has code reviews done within 20 minutes. I'm making that
yeah,
example
yeah,
up.
that's great. Um, well, again, it's like a whole chapter in this 140-page report, so I haven't digested all of their recommendations. But let me rattle off the 7 key themes that they identified. Clear and communicated AI stance. So a very clear stance in our organization. What is our stance on AI?
Easy, easy, okay.
Working in small batches. Ooh, I want to drill into that one. That one
Mhm,
sounds like a theme that we've seen in all of our
mhm.
discussions and use of AI. Healthy data ecosystems. Not sure what that means, but I would imagine that
Exactly what
data
that
makes all
means.
data. You know what that means?
Well, I mean, I've worked in unhealthy data ecosystems.
Okay.
So, if your data what's your data ecosystem? At least in my world, I work in an online transaction business, right? Is your transactional data clean? Are the pipelines functioning? Is there a semantic layer that's abstracting your raw data into data that people can do stuff with? And then ultimately it's asking the question, I think, which is, or not asking the question, but it's saying, look, if those parts aren't in place, it's really hard to get your AI to do magic stuff because it's operating against the garbage that comes out.
Yeah. So they say that's exactly what they say about healthy data systems, and they say in our analysis, healthiness of a data ecosystem is measured as a single factor comprised of 3 individual indicators, measuring respondents' perception of the overall quality of internal data sources, the accessibility of internal data sources, and the degree to which the internal data sources are siloed or divided from one another.
Can we
Right. And
sidebar here for
so,
a second? Can I give you all an
yeah,
example of a unclean data system? This happened to me
absolutely.
within the last month.
Yeah.
So an important thing to know is the company I work for has a fiscal year that ends September 1st, and then there's an audit thereafter. And for a hot minute, there was a panic because the auditors were saying some very material number. The revenue was off by some very material number from what we reported to what they were seeing. Like in this business, like a 1, 2, 3 kind of percent, like a big number.
That's a big number. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it turns out there was this operational workflow, which was some people. So, we run a two-sided marketplace, and sometimes there'd be a problem where I can't remember exactly the details. Let's just say that the worker wasn't getting paid on time. Maybe they weren't getting paid on time because the customer's credit card failed or something. I don't know the details. So, ops, in order to pay that worker, would create a second order And so, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a second order for you. I'm going to mark this as approved and you'll get paid. And then eventually we'll collect the money from the first order and it'll all work out. But what it made it look like in our system is that there were two orders. And what happened is when the credit card actually ran or whatever, the first order looked like it got paid because the operator manually did it, and the second order got paid because the money actually came through. And so the auditors were like, "Well, wait a second, it says you have too much money here. You don't have as much money as you say you have." And we ultimately tracked it down to that. So it was a great example. Oh, to me, it's an example of two things: the data wasn't clean, and also
Yeah,
of something I call, I sometimes refer to as cry-sourcefulness, which is you had operators just trying to be resourceful and try to solve a problem.
yeah, totally.
And actually, this wasn't really an example of cry-sourcefulness. We'll save that for another podcast. But they were just being resourceful and trying to solve a problem for customers. And conceptually in their head, they thought, well, the money's all going to work out. It'll be fine. But from an accounting perspective, it didn't. So that's an example of sort of unclean data.
Well, and to sort of go back, that makes a ton of sense. And to go back to that question of like, what are these attributes that make you more likely to have productivity in your AI empowerment? And after healthy data ecosystems, another item that's listed is AI accessible internal data, right? Like
Mhm.
the AI needs to be able to access those
Mhm.
healthy ecosystems of data,
Yeah,
right? Like that's
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 right.
that's a key part. And I feel like this report, I bet you if we went back in time, like to the 2021 DORA metrics reports, these themes probably existed independent of AI assistance. Like these are also attributes of what high performance teams have
Yeah.
available to them.
Well, yeah, teams that can effectively automate things.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I wait before
Um,
you go any further? Can I sidebar my sidebar for one more second? This
yeah, sure.
particular problem I told you about, this sort of audit thing, and it ended up getting resolved, and it was fine. And it actually exposes another thing that drives me crazy. People are like, "Oh, there's a bug in the system. All the revenue's off," and all the engineers are out there looking for the bug, and nobody can find a bug, right? Because there was no bug, right? The system was working
Right.
just. I mean, there was like a bug, kind of like it was like a people process kind of bug, but
Yeah.
it's always this thing that drives me bananas. And I guess I just take it personally. Like people start blaming this. Oh, the system's buggy. It's not working. And then it sort of makes it way up, and it's getting reported in the meetings. Oh, there's a bug in the accounting system, and that's why we had this thing that was off that we fixed. I'm like, no, no, it wasn't a bug. It wasn't a
Yeah.
bug. It worked just
I
fine.
it's so funny you say this because I just experienced something that's a very similar to that, where um there's a subsystem that we have that has generally been plagued with bugs. And the theory of the case was like, oh, there's a bug over here, and I'm sure it has to be this flavor of bug.
Mm,
And because here's my empirical observations I've made. And they were like, "Oh, we must have broke something because it worked in September and it doesn't work
mm,
now." And I was like, "Hold on a second. Let's like capture what we know versus what we think we know." And um after kind of like looking at it, there was indeed a bug, but the bug actually always existed.
mm.
And it was just that we didn't see the bug in September because this particular bug related to longer and longer time periods exposed the bug
Yeah,
where shorter time periods don't.
yeah.
And so it was a real interesting example. It's not exactly the same thing that you're describing, but it's a similar thing where it's so easy for us, especially when we've kind of like bumped our head against a particular, door frame walking through it every time. We're like convinced when we have a headache, we must have hit that door frame again.
That's right.
And it turns out we could have a headache for other reasons.
Well, I just think I take that word bug so personally because
Oh,
it
for sure.
fundamentally means like a person made an error,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And anyway, okay, so
So
number four, accessible internal data.
yeah. Number five, no surprise here, strong version control practices. Right. Again,
That one we've got nailed.
right. Right. Um, working small batches, mentioned that one already.
Oh,
Users you
actually, hang on a second. You know where I take that back. That one we've got nailed. That one we've got
version
nailed
control
when it
users.
comes to code.
Mm,
But for a lot of these models, I don't think as an industry, I think some of the machine learning models and stuff have gotten better, but I don't know where that the state of the art is. I know that in the sort of data modeling world, we have these machine learning models and AI models now. I don't know that there's the maturity of versioning the models.
Well, you know what's interesting?
Might have developed in the last few years.
Maybe. Um, I actually think this is a really interesting question of strong version control practices. And again, this is a report that's looking at an industry-wide report, and they kind of identified these 7 clusters of organizational kind of characteristics.
Mhm.
And what they're saying here is that this is a really nice line here. A key aspect to mature version control is its function as a psychological safety net. This safety net allows development teams to experiment and innovate with confidence, knowing they can easily revert to a stable state if something goes wrong.
Mhm.
One of our most tangible examples of this is the reliance on rollback and revert features. The
Mhm.
ability to undo changes swiftly and without the fuss is not just a convenience, it's a critical enabler of speed and resilience. And I got to be honest with you. You said we've nailed that, and I think that you and I come from a long history of school of hard knocks,
Mhm.
learning learning that you want a high quality version control system and you want high quality version control best practices, right? And but it's a learning experience for some developers. I was literally just talking to my friend who's starting a two guys in the garage project, and he doesn't come from a classic software engineering background. And I was talking to him about his current challenges, and he was saying like, oh yeah, my buddy says my pull requests are way too large. I'm like, well, how large are your pull requests? And he was like, oh, dozen files and like 2,000 lines of code changed. And I'm like, yeah, like that you're not making it easy on
No.
your co-founder here. That don't do that. And I think that I would not be surprised if there aren't uh organizations out there that, for whatever reason, either because they don't have principals don't have the experience to kind of demand this, or for whatever reason they started running fast and haven't like kind of standardized on these things, that I could imagine strong version control best practices are might be something that teams struggle with. And AI would definitely, if you don't have good quality version control systems, and then you're running hard with AI writing lots of code for you, then I am not surprised that that increase in product instability line would go up for those teams.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a hypothesis that there's like software development practices within a data organization on average are not as strong. Software development practices in the software development organizations are very strong,
Fair
and then
enough.
within the data organizations are not. But that's okay. That's a good one. That's a real good one. I'm glad we dug into that one more.
Yeah, and then it's this, and I blew past this one by say working in small batches. I want to double click on that one a little bit. That's another good example where this is all about like the degree to which the teams break down their changes into manageable units that can be quickly tested and evaluated, right? So this, how many times have you and I like talked about this concept in engineering efficiency, or how many times have we been dropped into an organization, and one of the key things that we're looking at is, well, how do you break down your work? How do you how to make sure your work is bite sized? That's the way you get quality estimates. That's the way you get quality reproducibility. That's the way you get faster turnaround time. It's such a kind of core element to what I consider to be high performance engineering
Hmm.
teams, right? The high performance engineering teams are better at breaking tasks down.
The name of the game.
Um, and again, I feel like this is a good example where if you kind of run into, headlong into, I'm empowering agents, I'm doing all this AI stuff, but you don't have like a kind of a system level thinking around, we break things down into small pieces, then the AI agents are happy to follow your lead and write 2,000 line PRs,
Yeah.
right?
And I really want to do an episode with you just to talk about how to train and incentivize teams and individuals to break things into smaller pieces. It's like a thing that either you get it or you don't. And the people who don't, how do we teach them to do it? Different
Yeah,
different
that's a good
episode,
question.
different episode.
We'll have to think about that. So the next attribute they have on teams with these attributes are more likely to be successful adopting AI. A user-centric focus is also measured that has been included in past iterations of our annual survey. A user-centric focus refers to the degree to which the teams think about the experiences of the end users of their primary application service. So,
Trainer.
um, uh, a 7-point Likert scale indicators apparently. All right, so
Heard of the Likert scale before.
that that sounds to me like sure, makes sense. It makes sense to me that if you have a user-centric model, you're probably going to get more results out of
Sure.
things.
Because to some degree, AI feels like one of those things is a solution in search of a problem. And if your team is more focused on the problems, you're going to find more effective solutions.
That's fair. That's fair. Last item that they list is quality internal platforms. So, and again, I think this is the quality of these platforms. You know, set of capabilities that is shared across multiple applications or services. These are kind of like your classic platform
Mhm.
conversation. That you and I like to have. Like, are your internal platforms high quality?
Yeah. Well, look, we'll just do all that stuff and it'll just be great.
Yeah, and I think that I mean, okay, so let's zoom the camera out for a second. Okay, so what does this mean, right? So if those are all the so we have this data set where we have 90% of people, 90% of organizations are adopting AI, right? A whole bunch of people are like, yes, this makes me more effective, right? And one of the metrics is a you know zero 0.1 units increase in instability of software releases. Oh my god, right? Like that's horrible. That's like a really bad outcome.
You outlined those 7 different archetypes of organizations earlier. I think it was 7.
Yeah.
Does it do a crosstab of those? And you said the scores of the things that like were better or worse, and then there's the organizations. Does it do a crosstab? It's like I have a hypothesis based on everything you've said so far. Here's my hypothesis. The organizations that are higher performing are getting more out of AI. Because all the things you
Yes.
just said, which were attributes of an organization that's getting a lot out of AI, sounded to me like things of high performing organizations, right? And so I
Exactly.
suspect that if you're already an organization that I'm just trying to remember the things you said has clean data and has good internal systems and all these things, AI is probably really helping you out. And if you're an organization that doesn't have that stuff already, then you're down in the bottom. I don't know what you called it, the hapless and helpless, or whatever the first group was. I don't remember what they were, but you're probably you said what was the first group you described of those groups? Because they had a great description for the name of it. I can't remember the name.
Cluster 1 is stuck in survival mode, facing significant challenges with fundamental gaps in their processes, environments, and outcomes. Like that sounds like a bad
Yeah.
place to be. There's two other groups that also sound like they're in
Hmm.
pretty bad spaces. The legacy bottleneck are in a constant state of reaction where unstable systems dictate their work and
Hmm.
undermine their morale. And then there's the constrained by process. These teams are running on a treadmill despite working on stable systems. Their efforts are consumed by inefficient processes, leading to high burnout and low impact. Those are the three like, you know, heroes to zero scale. Those are
Hmm.
the three in the closer to zero scale.
And my hypothesis, I'll have to look at this report myself, or maybe they've made the data available, is that those 3 categories, which I think were about 35% of the people,
Yeah, 28 to 38%.
38. So 38, that's a lot. That's more than a third,
Yeah.
right? That's 2 out of 5 almost
Yeah.
people. Those organizations are not having a lot of success.
They're not.
They're
And
not.
and yeah.
But they're not having a lot of success with anything. It doesn't have anything to do with AI.
Well, but here's the thing that may and again, I haven't digested all 142 pages of this report, but I would not be surprised if they're going nowhere faster, right? Like, in other words, they're already struggling and AI just makes them go faster. They're just struggling faster.
Yeah. So they're going slower, faster.
Yeah. They're going in the wrong direction faster.
Wrong direction, faster. Do you think that this report and the things you've outlined could be used almost as a scorecard for a organizational maturity assessment?
Yeah, I think that I don't speak for the DORA group, but I think that DORA generally considers themselves as trying to uh quantify
Yeah.
in a very measurable way uh what they deem as the highest priority attributes of mature software organizations. So I think that's consistent with their vision statement anyway.
Pretty cool. Well, you've been calling this a report.
Yeah.
It is not a report. It is a book.
It's a book, 142 pages. It's a book.
142 pages. Some people argue that The Old Man and the Sea is the greatest American novel ever, and it was only like 120 pages.
There's some pretty cool charts in here. Time spent using AI on a recent workday. Um, so we've got this nice clean distribution where the axis is hours and the number of respondents that report those hours. So what do you think the median number of hours that the several thousand people that respond to this report said they use AI in a recent workday?
Well, before I tell you my answer, and I have a number in mind, I want to tell you that I think on all these AI surveys right now, the answers are inflated. And I think directionally it all tells us the same thing. This was my very first skepticism at the beginning. I think right now, I mean, this isn't exactly the right word, but like it's politically incorrect to say I'm not using AI or AI isn't helping me, right?
Yeah.
So I think the answer is 5.75 hours per day.
Oh, interesting. Well, the median was 2 hours,
Oh,
um, but it's got a pretty long tail going all the way to 12 hours.
12 hours.
Um, and
Does that
uh,
include the agents you have working for you?
I no, this is time spent using AI. I mean, this person, a 12, someone says 12 hours, they're saying they're working 12-hour days and they're using AI. Here's another one, reflexive use of AI. How often do users turn to AI when encountering a problem or task? So always, most of the time, about half the time, sometimes never. Where do you think the pig and the python on that one is?
Sometimes.
Yeah, 39% of respondents said sometimes. That's the pig and the python there.
Pig in the python. What does that expression mean?
It's the lump in the curve,
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that jibes with the 2 hours to me,
right?
right? If that number was 5.75 hours, they would have said most of the time.
Yeah. It's interesting. This is another, and I'm not quite sure how I would have answered this question. General reliance on AI at work, distribution of reliance levels among AI users. So 8% of respondents say a great deal, 20% say a lot, 37% say a moderate amount, um, a little 30%. Um, reliance on AI by task. Number one largest reliance on AI by task is writing new code.
Hmm.
So that's a little surprising to me. Because we would have, code reviews is down at 56% and writing new code is at 71%. So that's kind of interesting.
We were just talking about breaking work down. I was talking to one of our engineering managers last week, a guy named Tom, and he told me what he was finding AI really effective for was take we kind of talked about this again. We'll call back to Michael Natkin and sort of telling the AI to make you a plan. He was saying it was actually being really effective for taking his product requirements document and his technical design document and breaking it down into tasks and actually turning those tasks into Jira tickets. It was helping him and his team decompose their work.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, like, at least on their survey, things that sound very similar to that are, um, creating specifications at 56%, and analyzing requirements at 49%.
Yeah.
So definitely some there people are using it for those types of things.
Yeah, you told me about a client that you have. I don't know if it's an active client or a past client where you used AI to take their requirements and turn them into more of a spec, a written spec for the
Yeah, feature
engineers,
briefs.
and everybody loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, and in fact, I kind of did a little mini teaching tutorial session with that product owner, say, here's how I'm doing, here's how I did
Yeah.
it. And their reaction was, "Oh, great, I'll start doing that too." And they've been happy with the results. So,
Okay, so can I finish with an AI story today? It's a
yeah.
minor one, but it's a cautionary tale. It's an
Okay.
instructive lesson for all of us. Our CEO recently sent an all company email. At least not an unusual thing to happen. And she observed, and we use Google Workspace at our company. And at the top of the email, there was the Google Workspace Gmail AI summary. And she was annoyed because she said, "Oh, this AI summary isn't accurately reflecting what I said in this email." And a
Very interesting.
particular thing that it was referring to, there was a number in there. It was referring to 33 people, and it listed it as 33%. And that's what was saying, 33% of the people. And she was like, no, no, it's 33 people. Okay, well, another person on our team said, well, my AI summary says something totally different. Not only
Yeah.
does it not make a mistake, it says something totally different. And there's an instructive lesson in there. I said this to our
Yeah.
senior leadership team where I'm the only technical person. AI is not deterministic. It is probabilistic. You're
It's
going to get
not.
a different answer every time. And
Yep.
it taught us a little bit about how that, for instance, Gmail, they're not basing it off the source email, they're basing it off the received email. But everybody gets a different
Yep.
answer, and it's a real lesson with this AI. It was a good opportunity to teach my senior leadership colleagues, coworkers, counterparts a little bit about how AI works this week with that AI summary.
Yeah. That's a great story. And for sure, those of us that have been plugging stuff into these LLMs for a while, we've noticed this exact same question two times in a row, two totally different answers. So there you go. That's the state of DORA for AI.
We'll stick it in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll definitely link to this in the show notes.
I love it.
100%.
Now I'm going to go read that book.
Yeah.
All right. It's nice to talk to you, Brad.
All right. Good talking to you, Scott.
Till next week.
This episode of How Many CTOs Does It Take podcast was edited by Saffron Hefta-Gaub. Our theme song was AI generated by Brad. Please follow us on all the social media platforms at How Many CTOs Pod. You can find us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, X, TikTok, and Patreon, or at our website at howmanyctospod.com. And remember to rate, review, and subscribe on the podcast platform of your choice. Thanks for listening.